Do you wish somebody wrote down the recipe for your parenting challenges? Did you want tips and tricks to become a better mama for you and your babies? I know I do. If you're a mother who feels that you are doing the best you can with the hands you've been dealt, but you're still getting it done, then this podcast is for you. I'm so glad you tuned in to Nailed It Motherhood because we might have the recipe that nobody wrote down. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Nailed It Motherhood podcast. I am your host with the most, Tamara Eldridge, and I am so glad you're here. Today, we're leaning into the kind of conversation that too many moms whisper about, but not enough say out loud, including our guest. We're talking about the married single mom experience. But pause, because I know you just grabbed a pen and paper so you can take notes. But before we jump into today's deep conversation, you know I have to talk to you listeners. If there is anything that you hear today that makes you go, ouch, and amen, then go ahead and like, share, follow, or leave a review because we really need that. And I appreciate the support. If you want to support with some coins, you can click the Buy Me a Coffee link or subscribe directly through Buzzsprout. Every bit of support truly helps these stories keep going and staying alive and thriving. Now, our guest today is the powerhouse behind the garden counseling and consulting firm. She's not just a psychotherapist, though. She's a truth teller, a safe space, and a sister in this motherhood journey. Personally, she is us, carrying the joy and the weight of being a mom, a woman, a healer, and someone who once spent 8 years in a marriage feeling very much like she was parenting alone. I know, that's a lot. But mamas, papas, grandmas, and the village, please welcome to the podcast, Miss Monique Russell.
Yay, that's me.
That is
Hi, my name is Monique
you.
Russell. You don't have to call me
Hi.
my whole government. That's just for the feds and the taxes. Monique is just fine. And I am excited to share my personal journey along with how that works with what I do to hopefully bring some comfort to moms who feel like they're by themselves.
I love that. And I appreciate that you're thinking of others, even though you had to go through this. It's interesting that your work collides with this kind of conversation that you're having today, something that you had to experience. And I'm sure that we are going to hear a little bit more about that whenever you share your personal parenting journey, which, you know, I have my notebook, so I hope the listeners have theirs as well. But first, before we go into your personal parenting journey, I have to do what I always do for every episode, and that is share our Tavi Tale. So today's Tavi Tale, I'm calling digging. Not for boogers, not for gold, but literally digging. So we have been kind of starting a garden or growing a garden rather with my boyfriend at his home. And Tavia is really, really excited and really into gardening. She goes to a school that has a garden program, so she's able to get her hands in the dirt, learn about the process of how you plant, how you're making sure you're watering, how you harvest, and then how you enjoy the harvest. So that's really exciting that she comes back and she's like, well, Farmer Heather said this and Farmer Heather said that. And I do know that Farmer Heather has listened to the podcast. So Farmer Heather, if you are listening, shout out to you for cultivating that into my daughter because she wants to do it outside of school as well. But Tavia has no limits, no boundaries. And there was one day when she watched me dig a hole so that we can plop our raspberry and our blueberry bushes directly into the ground. So I used a small shovel and she plopped that hole. or watched me pop the hole. And then a couple days later, maybe a week later, I told her to go outside and play while we were hanging out. The backyard is fenced in, so it's safe for her to go out there whenever I need that time away from her busybody. And so she went outside, and then I came out a little bit later and I saw the shovel in the middle of the ground. And then I look and I see dirt on the grass, the green grass area. And the girl dug up 3 holes in the middle of the yard that have nothing to do with anything, but just dug them up because she felt like she needed to practice shoveling the dirt. So I don't know what she was digging for, but she certainly got in trouble that day. And I tripped in that hole when we were playing Skip It about a week later. So she also got in trouble that day as well. But, you know, the curious minds have to know, I guess. So thank you for listening. I suppose. Thank you for listening to my Tommy Tale. This is my joy, the part where I get to share all of the goofy stories about my daughter, and digging holes in the backyard is one of them. But enough about me, Monique. It is time for us to hear your personal parenting journey during your herstory segment. But before we get to your personal parenting journey, I do want listeners to just know a little bit more about who you are. So I'm going to read your bio. I do want all the listeners to know that Monique is here to normalize the frustration that comes with the experience of being a married single mom. She wants to tell you that if you're silently struggling, you are not crazy, and you're certainly not weak. You are seen. So here is a little bit more about Monique. And although she said we don't need to know her government name, I'm going to read it in the bio. Monique Russell, LCSW, is a divorced single mother of 2 and a passionate mental health provider serving women of color with a focus on the perinatal journey. With a blend of clinical expertise and real-life experience, she creates space for honest conversations about motherhood, identity, and healing. Monique's mission is to break down stigma, build up resilience, and inspire women to own their stories and thrive in pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. So listeners, I'm going to fall back and I'm going to give the mic to Miss LCSW, Monique Russell. She earned them letters, y'all. Okay? So Monique, the floor is all yours.
So the beginning of my story, I would be remiss not to mention my own mother, who did everything for everyone. Very difficult to see that she was parenting on her own. So as a woman, a young woman, you're inspired by somebody who does a most excellent job. So going into my marriage and having children, that is the expectation, that your shoulders are extremely broad. And I believe that I taught him that I could do it all by myself, which is my responsibility in the matter. I really wanted to have children. It was not a very easy thing for me to do. It took a lot of doctor's visits, a lot of concentrating. But I got pregnant with my first daughter. We both seemed to be elated. I was the second wife. He had children before. I hadn't heard many concerns. His parents were very active. And so you think that you're walking into a family where you're fully supported. Well, the gag was on me. I was in the hospital frequently because I believe that you are a mother from conception. And that goes into the work that I do also because, people try to tell you in miscarriage, you're not a parent. And that's not true. You're a mother from conception. You begin to change from the moment that you conceive. So going through the hospital experience, he was very present. it wasn't until after I gave birth that things changed. And I would hear things like, well, you're not doing anything around the house. My organs are trying to get back in this place. Like, very much tension with his family on how to raise this child. My child it was very difficult to birth her. So I remember the nurses in the hospital were beating her. And they're like, it's not going to get out any other way. So when I got home, that's what I'm doing. I'm beating her because I don't want to go to the hospital. Gassy baby is the worst reason to be in the ER. Biggest waste of $200, right? And so I remember his mother yelling from the other room, you better stop beating that baby. And in my mind, I'm thinking, but nobody's helping me. My mother was suffering with dementia at that point, as amazing as she was. There wasn't anything she could do for me. I had postpartum anxiety, and I was figuring most of this out on my own. Generally didn't get any better. I was home 5 months by myself. He went back to work 2 weeks after she was born, and it was just me and this kid. That I remember right after I delivered, I looked at her, quite high on epidural. I'm sure every mom understands. I looked at her and I was like, she comes home with me? And they were like, yeah, this is it. I was like, oh, okay. And so I was forced to kind of figure out to navigate what parenting looked like. And then it consumed me, right? Because it's just me having to do everything. Took her to daycare. Fast forward, here comes kid number 2, right? And so I was entering graduate school when I found out I was pregnant with my second daughter. I have video footage of one hanging off after she was born, hanging off feeding, and the other sleeping, and books and the computer in front of me. And the irony is the person who probably should have been helping the scenario was taking the pictures. And so after learning from my mom how to be a mom, I would think that was one of the greatest issues for me inside of my marriage. That I couldn't go to my mother and say, was this the same thing that you experienced? And so because I couldn't go to her, I went to her sisters. And I just had a conversation with a lot of different women. And it seems that it was very common that single motherhood was a thing, but nobody ever talked about it because especially women of color were taught that that's just what we're supposed to do. I was 8 years old. My family's from the West Indies, and I was 8 years old when my grandmother told me, when you have a baby, that's your baby. He can do whatever he wants to do. This is what we're taught. And so it took a lot for me to get a little unearthed out of that. No, there are things that you need to do. And I would soon discover that the only things that would be done were the things that I asked to be done. You have to pick up, you have to drop off. The assumption always was that I was going to take care of it. And I did, which is a difficult thing for a woman. The clinical side is just going to come out because if you teach me that I don't need you, then I won't. And so unfortunately, single motherhood was a great part of the demise of my marriage because I had to do it anyway. And I continue to, right? So I love my children. Now, all that being said, I love my children and they are my children. I had to grieve and learn how to allow them room to grieve and rediscover myself all at the same time while being a therapist to women who were dealing with the same thing. And that might seem difficult, but it's why I call it a sisterhood, because it became a mutual benefit and they don't even know it. They know it now, but they didn't know it at the time. We're just talking through it, being able to think for someone else and go, oh no, that doesn't make sense. I could hear myself and say, no, you have to pull that together for you as well. So now, yes, I am very much divorced. No sorries needed. We live very far apart from each other, and it's just me and my girls, and we are thriving, actually. They are more themselves now than they've been. They, of course, because of some of the things that happened in the marriage, I did seek therapy for them as well, so they go every other week. But we have started an entire new life. And that's okay. It's okay to have to start over if need be. You have no control. I had no control over what his choices were. I still don't, right? I just, my focus is on myself first because children need a fulfilled mother, and them, what I have spills over into them, and it allows them to be able to build and thrive. I teach my daughters that you are not supposed to do everything. If you're tired, we sleep in. You've had a long week, you go to dance class, you're running up and down, you're doing this, you're doing that. You need to rest, you rest. The male figures that are around them, because their father is far away, the male figures that are around them teach them, like, I will help and you will also do. So we have a much better balance now, with uncles and, just people than we had when we were at home.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing. It's a sad but beautiful story because nobody ever wants to go into a marriage or a partnership of parenting thinking my partner is not going to be here on the other side, especially knowing that that is something that you wanted. You both seem to have wanted it. But I am glad that you found courage enough to love yourself and allow the things that you said to your clients also speak to you, to help you to a place of thriving. It sounds kind of recent, the divorce. Was it pretty recent?
Yeah, the separation was in 2023 and the divorce was finalized in 2025, January 2025.
Wow. So that's very recent.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that you have acknowledged that both you and your daughters are doing well. They're understanding that that's not what life is supposed to look like.
I think it's important to be honest. You have to be honest with them. It's
Absolutely.
a difficult thing. But what I really want moms to pay attention to is their children. So my older daughter, one day she pulled me into the corner and she said, Mommy, can we just leave, just me and you? What do you mean? That's strange. And my baby, who she's baby Medea, just looked at him one day and was like, I really don't like you. Yikes.
Wow.
And so I want moms to also be inspired by your children. Sometimes leaving for yourself is not enough. But when you are invested in your parenting, you have to listen to the things that they say and do. And that might help us get through.
That's respectable. That you stopped and you actually heard them. You didn't just take it on the chin, like, okay, calm down, chill out. We're not leaving right now. Womp, womp, womp. You actually said, something's not right. Can you explain your response, how long it took you to say, I need to make this adjustment for them and for me? Did you put you first, or did you leave because of them?
No, I left for me. My children needed me, right? I needed me, and I knew my children needed me. There was whatever disconnect was happening with him, and that could be several things. There's no love lost, but whatever disconnect was happening with him. If we go back to the statement that my grandmother made to me, right? When you have those kids, those are your kids. He can do what he wants, but those are your kids. Rough statement to make, but absolutely applicable in the moment. Right. So I knew that I was unhappy. I was overweight. I had medication that I was taking based on stress. Mm-hmm. We'd been to therapists maybe about 4 times, and the gratitude, the appreciation just didn't exist. And so it was a choice there was this part of me that was ready to thrive and that I couldn't because I was in this situation, not by the person, but the situation anchored me. And so I needed to figure it out. And the only thing that I knew was I could only go on a little bit that I knew, which was that I needed space. I needed space to be able to figure this out. I couldn't think inside. It's extremely difficult to heal in the same situation that makes you sick. And so I needed space to be able to figure out what I needed to do next. And I would never take that space because I would never be away from my children. And so it had me very locked in. And so the first step was dropping my children someplace I could trust. I dropped them off to my sister and just sat still, went through the anxiety, went through the phone calls, went through all the things I needed to go through with them. And once I was able to iron that out, where I could actually sit in a place and think, that is when I realized this is not living. This is, in fact, making you sick. And how is it that you're going to be good for you, your children, and then your client base if this is actually making you sick? Oh no, we can't do that. And so there was never a real anger or upset. I didn't blame anybody in the separation. I didn't anyway. Blame anybody in the separation. For me, it just didn't work. It's just not working. And so when things don't work, you have to figure out what does. If it was working for my children, it's questionable whether I would have left or not. But it wasn't, by no means. Some of the stories that I heard them tell were things that I didn't even knew they remembered.
Wow.
And so it was for me. And my children are happier because I'm fulfilled. They have the ability to thrive because I'm fulfilled. I can be mom. I'm always someplace doing something. I'm a hippie mom. They live their best life, go play.
Yes.
I'm tired, mommy. All right. We've been going for 2 weeks straight. Let's sleep in today. We won't get perfect attendance this month. And I'm always honest with them. So the older they get, my honesty evolves because their questions evolve. And so I had a great conversation with my older daughter, and she said, Mommy, I thought true love doesn't die. And I said, it doesn't. And she said, so your love with daddy wasn't true love. It was painful love. And I said, well, that's a way to put it. And she was like, yeah, that wasn't good. It wasn't. And that comes from just being honest about the way things are. We're not dumping on them, right? We have to say things that are age appropriate, but we tell the truth. So if they try to say, Mommy, tell daddy you love him, I will not, because I don't want you to continue to think that that's what love looks like. So it takes a lot of work. But that's the LCSW. I work really hard at it to get them to understand things that are age appropriate. Does it mean that I go in the corner and cry sometimes? Absolutely. Does that mean that oftentimes I feel like I may have failed them? It comes up every now and again. Because in these relationships, when we fall for these people, there are always flags, right? And so we'll always look at those things and feel just a little bit of like, if I would have. That's absolutely normal as well. And so it was for me. And I am significantly happier. I'm not even angry. It's just something that didn't work. We tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah. So this is a sidebar, but I heard a song in my head. I'm a Christian, and I heard a song in my head whenever you started to just say it was for me. What God has for me, it is for me. Like, I just hear that. I hear that. But you just said, I always say this, you said so much. You just said a lot just to answer that one question. The fact that you can't heal in a place that's making you sick. That is so powerful. And it takes me back to a relationship that I was in that I didn't know who I was. I just know that I wasn't happy, but we had this title and we had plans for the future. I didn't like myself. I didn't like him. I was sick. And it took a lot for me to say, I have to leave. But once I left, everything just shifted. It felt like what God had for me was waiting for me to get out of that place of ailment. Yeah, this is a recent divorce. I'm excited where you're going. I'm also very impressed by your daughter. We oftentimes don't think our kids are paying attention, but I know that my daughter pays attention to literally everything she is not supposed to pay attention to. So I try to move like I know she's watching. But that question about, I thought true love never dies, then that wasn't true love with Daddy. That was painful love. I said, my God, that girl is counseling you.
They are.
You went to school and she's the result.
We don't trust our kids enough. And
oh God,
my children,
yeah,
the little oracles that my friends call them, they come up with all kinds of stuff. And I feel like it is dramatically important to really listen to them because technically they are objective. They love both of you, but children will always pick who they think is right and who they think is wrong, right? And so
always
it was healing to me to be able to hear my children like my mother heard me. My mother was very much into listening to me. And so even now, like, I stop and I ask questions. I don't yell, I don't scream, I stop and I ask questions. What do you mean by that? Where you get that from, you know? I also wanted to say, you mentioned the time it took me to get out. And I feel like part of the grief process for a lot of us is that it takes more time than we think it should to get out. You don't get out until you're ready. Sometimes you have to go in deeper to get out. In the beginning, when you see all the signs, it's possible to be like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with that. Once we bypass that phase, there's part of us that's kind of locked in. And there's work to get out. So I don't want anyone to feel guilt about the time it takes to get out. I always encourage therapy because I was in it to win it, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week, because there was very much a hold on me. Right. And so we just take the time that it takes. As a therapist, we're going to take whatever time it takes. My job is to constantly give you the information over and over again. You're not angry enough yet. And so you're going to keep taking it. And that's fine. We'll talk about him again next week and again until you're like, light bulb. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm like, now we're cooking with gas. Now we're ready because you are now your priority. Children are definitely on the list. But in order to really be able to heal and be the parent that you're looking to be, you gotta be fulfilled first. You gotta be at least in the process of healing in order to be able to do that. So about, just for your listening pleasure, about when did I know it was over? Right after the birth of my daughter, the first one. How long it took me? Till baby Medea got here. And she got violent. Because there was a lot of verbal abuse happening, right? And she got violent. And I was like, light bulb. Oh, no. So she was actually very young when I left. She was about 3 or 4 when I actually left because it was very quick. I woke up. You know, my people are from the West Indies, you know. West Indian women had a type of personality. I woke up and I said, yeah, I'm moving. So however you want to work that out is fine. But I cannot thrive in this place anymore. I'm taking them and I'm going because he already know. Now he will tell you, I'm not going anywhere without them. So he knew that they were going. And 6 months, I moved from home 800 miles away. Right. So take the time that you need. My mom used to say, take your time and hurry up. And it used to annoy me to no end when she said it because it didn't make sense to me. But the time between year 2 or 3 and year 8 was me taking my time. Hurry up was that 6 months. So you will redeem your time. Don't worry about that part, right? Just worry about when you walk, not turning back around. So we build to get to that place. So yeah.
I love it. Did your mom and your relationship with your mom and her listening to you inspire your choice of career?
Sort of. So my mother was also undiagnosed depressed most of her life. And so I did a lot of listening to her. I thought that I would treat children, but no, they bring out the gangster in me. Makes me want to fight parents. So we stay away from them. And so that's when I became very specific to women of color. And it's actually written down in several places. No woman will ever cross my path and remain depressed because I love my mother the way I do. I make it my work. So I'm not very average therapist. If you're laying in the bed, we can lay in the bed together. The goal is for me to meet you where you are and to get you from this place to where you deserve to be. Not just where you want to be, but where you deserve to be. And because I had to do that with the little bit of skills I had for my mom, who was my best friend, when I get women who are ready. Because if you let my clients tell it, boy, if you're not ready, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. But women who are ready to say, all right, we're going to get dirty. This is not going to be fun, but we're going to get you to the place that you deserve to be. So she's a great part she was a midwife. That is part of the reason why my specialty is perinatal. She would tell me stories about women who had postpartum depression when they really didn't think it was a thing because it was so long ago. And they would have postpartum psychosis even. Like one woman, she told me she put the baby in the shoebox and put the baby under the bed. And so as a midwife, you go to the house to make the second visit and they're like, where's the baby? And she's like, what baby? Now, as a clinician, I know that that's psychosis, right? And I know that that's immediate hospital visit. Get that baby away from that lady for a little while. She's got to go get treatment. She needs inpatient, outpatient, because there is something that has to snap in order for you to be able to almost forget that you had a baby. So when I focus on the perinatal population or from infertility, I call it from conception to college, right? We go through the whole thing, all the phases together. I become very much every other day almost towards delivery so that I can keep screening and normalize things that are normal. Like my hormones are all over the place. I'm crying at the TV. So what? I know people are going to tell you that that's a huge, it's fine. If you feel like crying, you cry. I promise you, in 2 months, we're going to be laughing at the fact that you were crying at the ice cream commercial. But where you are right now is totally fine. And I've seen a dramatic decrease in postpartum depression because of that. Like just things are just crazy. It's just the way it is, you know? So she is a lot of why I do what I do. She died actually in 2020. And that was a major shift for me. I became very, very much, very less tolerant. I was still very much postpartum when she passed away. And so that's my girl. That's my girl.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's very beautiful. I did not realize that perinatal counseling was a thing. So I definitely am curious to learn more about that. Is there any resource that our listeners can learn more about that?
Yes, there is postpartum support international. That's who we generally get certified through. They have a lot of different resources with ethnic groups and different ethnic groups, very inclusive. And that's my go-to. There are a couple of other groups outside, but because they're so comprehensive, you can find, if they don't work for you, you'll find a group of outsiders who go through them.
Awesome.
And women of color, we are few and far in between. You can find us who do specialize in it on Instagram. We're kind of a little group, very few far and in between.
Yeah.
And to be entirely transparent, it's because the classes to certify are expensive. The test itself is $500, pass or fail. And so we could go into that all day, but yes, that is a reason why a lot of us are not able to do it. But I always recommend to women of color who are pregnant, find somebody that gets it. Find, especially like if you're first generation American or, any of that. Like you want to find somebody who understands, because there has to be a blend between culture and practice.
Yeah.
Some things are not going to make sense, right? And so we want to make sure you have that blend, so when things are normalized, you don't feel like it's performative. Like we get it. It's not performative. So I always recommend you find one of us, and if you find one of us, you find all of us, because we are pretty well connected to one another.
Yeah. That's awesome. I work in education, and just like you, I realized the classroom was not for me, because I too turned into a gangster. And I love behind the scenes education. I love the support piece. That's where I thrive. There's another part of me that thrives in the classroom. But I love the babies, just not in that capacity. But one of the things that we absolutely push is that culture has to come first. We're in an urban school district where the majority of our students are Black. And then you add in the Hispanic students and the multiracial students and the English learning students. The white students are the minority in our school district. So we know that there's a teacher shortage for Black teachers. So if you think about that, or what does the population look like? The teaching population look like? They're white. So culture has to come first in the classroom before you teach the curriculum. Because if there's no connection, there's no understanding. If there's no understanding, there's no achievement. If there's no achievement, the future is bleak. So I love that you have that target area, because it's just beautiful when people get it, and when people truly strive to push for making sure you have that connection with your identity, so that you can effectively heal. You said so much. I have a lot to kind of like wrap up your episode with. Let's talk about how you were not anchored by the person per se, but how you were anchored by the situation. Wow. And I think that's what drives that. You don't have hate for him. You're not angry. You understand that it just didn't work out and you needed to prioritize yourself and your children. No longer are you anchored by your situation. And that's beautiful. You said that you had to grieve. You had to rediscover yourself, and you also had to be a therapist all at the same time. The duality, I don't even know if it's just duality, the plurality of that let's not forget you
Good
were
word.
also a mom. So yeah. But I appreciate how that experience pushed you to be a better therapist. And pushed you to excel with your target audience. There's just lots of notes. So with that being said, we are going to move on, but I want to thank you for sharing your story. It was a beautiful story. It is still being written, and I'm excited to see where you go. I don't know for sure that listeners know that you are not usually one to be in the spotlight. So I would like to highlight that is one of the things that you did say. You are not one to usually tell your story, but I do believe that it needs to be heard. Just like your clients told you, it needs to be heard. I agree. I hope that this is not your one-stop shop. I hope that you keep going on tour with your story. It's powerful. So, Monique, it's time for tea time. Are you ready for tea time? Yay! Awesome sauce. Tea time is a game of rapid fire. And I have a bucket full of questions. Some of them are deep, some of them are just for fun. But we're going to ask these questions in 3 minutes, and Monique will have an opportunity to share with us who she is. Just give a little insight into who she is as a person. So, we about to get started then. I'm going to hit play. And are you ready?
Oh, big money. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's
Big
do it.
money. Yes. First question. What's your hidden talent?
I am a dancer, like a real one.
Yes. What's your
I've
style?
danced
That's
in
not
some
a part
pretty
of the
great
question.
places.
Nice.
You name it, honestly.
Awesome.
The only thing that I don't do that I really can appreciate, which people may not, is stripping because I'm not strong enough to do it. Outside of that, I can't. I'll fall. I can't. I would love to, but
like she physically
I don't have the upper
can't,
body strength.
listeners.
Physically,
What
like
is the?
it's pretty dope.
You're gonna have to find a way around it, okay? But let's get back. What is the worst piece of advice you ever received?
Pray about it.
Pray about it. Yeah, I would agree.
Without a solution.
I would agree. Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta give me something tangible. I'm a prayer. I will pray all day. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What's your guilty pleasure? I like that response, by the way.
Oh my God, Love After Lockup. I love Love After Lockup.
I'm done with you. We're cutting it short. Name one book, podcast, or resource that's changed your perspective.
Dr. Tamara Bryant, podcast, The Homecoming. Book, Homecoming.
Yes. What's the best gift you've ever received?
My daughters.
That's
God was good to me.
I love it. And I love them because of, they sound like they are. If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be?
Be you. It'll pay off.
I like that. Name the most spontaneous thing you've ever done.
Oh my God. Interestingly enough, got married.
Last question. What's your go-to comfort food?
Pizza.
Pizza, pizza. Yes. Well, thank you so much for playing tea time with us.
That was
Tea time.
fun.
Tea time. Your answers were pretty darn awesome, not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure there's a workaround for the stripping. I'm just saying.
I'm going to try. It's such a good workout. I'm going to try.
I do know it's a good workout. Not that I've ever done it. I actually am very, very bashful when it comes to certain dances. I don't really twerk at all. I'll do it maybe every once in a blue moon with a little liquid courage. But I don't
Nothing
know.
wrong with a little
I
liquid
wouldn't do
courage.
stripping because I wouldn't be comfortable doing stripping. But we're back onto the script. Give me 1 second. I really do appreciate you playing because I had fun listening to your responses. At this time, I want to give you back the floor so that you can share any encouraging words or words of inspiration for our listeners, whether they be moms. You work with moms, so that probably will be your focus. But, you know, we have dads that listen. We have grandmas that listen. We have aunties. But what encouraging words might you offer to our listeners today?
Everything in its time. A large part of the anxiety that we feel and the sadness that we feel is because we put ourselves on a timeline of how things are supposed to look. And when it doesn't work the way we expected it to work, we put ourselves down because we didn't meet this expectation that we set, almost as if we don't have the power to change them. So my encouragement would be everything in its time. And find you a good therapist, because I love mine that I see once a week, sometimes twice. Find you a good therapist, because there's nothing like a hired best friend who is objective, tell you about yourself a little bit. There's a lot of progress there. So even with the guilt and the anxiety and the shame that you feel, everything in its time. And just make sure you can sit down and talk to somebody while you're going through it.
I like that. Everything in its time, and get you a hired best friend. However you got to do it, get you a hired best friend. That's what I'm going to start calling it. So let me ask first, what is next for you and how can people connect with you?
If they wanted services, you can find me on Headway, or email me. I'm on Instagram. You can DM me, but all you're really going to get is an email address, because I don't want you to discuss anything in DM. My Instagram is literally my whole name with middle initial and underscores, Monique M. Russell, LCSW. You can always send me a DM and say that you are interested in any type of services there. You can always follow me. There's always stuff to say. I'm not very active. If you needed help, even if you didn't want it to be me, you weren't in a state that I was licensed in. If you needed help locating some help, I'm absolutely here for that too. You get an email address for me and we'll locate some help for you, because if ever you feel like, again, no woman is going to cross my path and leave the same way. So even if I have to stop what I'm doing to help you find somebody, I'll do that. I'm on LinkedIn, and maybe, just maybe, this will become a thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I start where my priorities are, which is the individual. So I'm around, and I'm this way all the time. I'm pretty sure of it.
She's around, y'all. So make sure you get with her. Monique, thank you so much for being our best friend this episode, because not only did you share your personal parenting journey, but you shared a lot of powerful one-liners that are going to be really fantastic on your marketing. No, but for real, you shared just a lot of wisdom, a lot of heart, a lot of experience coupled with professionalism that we can all truly, truly benefit from, myself included. I am not married, but there are times where I feel like I'm doing it alone. And, sometimes I do have to put me first. And that has been the theme over the last few guests that I've interviewed, that it's not always about the kids first. We love them, we prioritize them, but we can't pour from an empty cup. And you are living proof that you got to fill that cup to thrive. You have to fill that cup for our kids to thrive. So we thank you for coming and sharing and pouring out your heart. Like I said, I'm hoping that this is not a one-time thing, and I will follow to be a fangirl. So IG, here we go. But I have 3 more questions for you that I ask all parents that come on the show. And the first question is parenting hard?
Yes. Yes.
You meant that thing. But are they still standing though?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they standing and they thriving, in case y'all missed it. So what do you proudly want to tell our guest today?
This mama is nailing it.
Nailing it. She gonna be nailing it just like she's gonna nail those stripper moves in the future.
Come on, you see?
Yes.
I like hope. There it is. I like hope.
Yes. So if you like this episode and you want to hear more personal parenting stories like our girl Monique, subscribe to my social media, Nailed It Motherhood Podcast, on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, remember that you can be a guest on the show by completing a guest application. All you have to do is go to the description and hit guest application and submit. We welcome your questions, we welcome your comments, and we welcome your ideas. And we certainly hope to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep on doing what it is you do. Smooches. See y'all.
You're listening to Nailed It Motherhood Podcast.